Welcome back, everyone. I'm so glad so many of you made it back to join us for our closing session today. And everybody has had a good time in Oklahoma City, out of the house, off the couch. I just cannot express my appreciation enough for you joining us here today. All of you that are on Whova and Zoom, I'm so glad that you were able to take some time out and converse with us. I think the chats worked really well today. I hope you learned a lot. Some amazing conversations going on the app, and I hope those continue. Don't forget that app information is available for a whole year, so you can get back on there and make your connections. I hope you're able to do that and continue this conversation forward. Before we get to the big event with our keynote speaker, we have some friends joining us from some of our supporters, and I believe we're gonna pipe them in from their offices. NRCS is a valuable partner, and Gilbert Guerrero is going to introduce his team as he goes, but he's just going to talk about some of the services they provide, and there's some great conversation in the app about this as well. But we just wanted to make sure that you heard a little more from them and understood what they do.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gilbert Guerrero. I am the Assistant State Conservationist for Outreach and Civil Rights with NRCS and the state office. I'll let the others introduce themselves real quick. Go ahead, Maddie.
My name is Maddie Ilwine. I'm the State Outreach Coordinator for the Oklahoma Farm Service Agency, and as well as Gilbert, I'm in the state office.
My name is Kenny Quigley. I'm a loan specialist with the Rural Development Agency in the state office in Stillwater.
We're going to give you a quick briefing about NRCS and the USDA agencies. The last farm bill was in 2018. So NRCS has 4 different programs that we focus on. One's EQIP, CSP, RCPP, and ASEP. Of the 4, I think most people recognize and know of and have heard of EQIP. So that's kind of our flagship program. Kind of catches everything. You got these, there's going to be these little scan notes on the side. You can take a picture with your phone and pull up the links to our national website that talks about these programs. So you don't have to pull it up now. I'm sure this thing is going to be saved so you can actually look at it later. But EQIP is our catch-all. That is our flagship program. As I said earlier, we can actually do a lot of cost share practices. We don't give grants. The NRCS does not provide grants to landowners. What they have to do for a grant is they have to actually go through an entity, and that's the only time that NRCS actually gives out grants. And those entities are either state or local or some 501c3 organizations. But a lot of our EQIP practices, we can focus on ponds and pipelines, tanks. That's a lot of, depending on what part of the country you're in. Of course, everybody knows that in the eastern part of Oklahoma, we get about 40 inches of rain, and in the western, we get close to 15. So the practices can vary. We provide cross fencing. If you're looking at removing some cedars, or if you're looking at different, maybe some prescribed burning, those options are out there, and those practices are out there under EQIP. They're also under some other different programs. We do have the Monarch Initiative that does provide a little bit of cedar clearing, but that's that's all still filed under EQIP. When we also looking at establishing pastures. We also do a lot of soil health as well. So if you're looking at some of these practices and looking at some of these conservation work on your property, you want to make sure and go to your local office and sign up for it. The sign up process is continuous. This is all, EQIP is also where we have our hoop houses and seasonal high tunnels. There are initiatives under there for organic farmers as well. So make sure and go to your office and talk to local conservationists and see what they have to offer. Right now, our offices are closed, but you can still set up an appointment and our conservationists can come out to your property. The next program I'm going to talk about is CSP. Really briefly, CSP is kind of like equip on steroids. You have to do multiple tasks on that parcel or on that acreage that you're looking at doing some work on. So here's some incidents. I'm trying to get some of the computer to work. It's not working quite right. Sorry. But if you're looking at doing some different types of work, CSP is out there. You can sign up. There are fund pools for different groups, just like there is on eQuip. CSP, it's a stewardship program. It's more of you're doing not just one conservation practice, but you're doing a multiple, and you're also doing a step above that. So these options are out there if you're looking at CSP. Another program that we have is called our easement program, or it's called ALE, or we have wetland reserve program, and we have ALE. Most people know about our wetland program. They all either want to have ducks, or they want to hunt ducks, or they want to have something. So we're converting a lot of farmed ground back into wetlands. We have those have easements. They either have a permanent easement, a 30-year easement, term easements, or just a 30-year contract. So the ALE program, what I talked about a little bit earlier, that also goes with entities. If you notice, tribes, state, and local governments are the ones that participate in this, and they're basically getting some of the grassland back in, or some of the rangeland, or some of the pasture land back into grazeland. Some of the definitions we have, and this is about beginning farmers. I'm going to read that one really easy. USDA defines beginning farmers and ranchers as those who have operated a farm or ranch for 10 years or less. So if you're a new and beginning farmer and you're looking for cost share assistance, or you're looking for something with USDA, maybe it's a loan program with FSA, you have to have, and you're applying for this under the beginning farmer, you have to meet these thresholds. Veteran farmers, that's the definition there. I am the beginning farmer contact for the state. I am the lead. Maddie Alewine is for FSA. These are some of the things that we're going to be looking to do in the next year, just so that you all know. We're going to be partnering with the local ag, with Meredith and her group. We're also looking at partnering with the Cattlemen's Association, Veterans for Farmers in Oklahoma, some different organizations to go out and provide some kind of assistance and training out in the field. So be looking for that. One thing I would recommend is sign up for Gov Delivery at your local FSA office. You can sign up at the NRCS side as well. We're getting ready to combine the program. So my recommendation is sign up with FSA. If you haven't signed up, go sign up. It's pretty easy to do that. Talk to your offices and ask them how to sign up. We're going to provide information. We've got some information in the documents website under the HUVA, and you can go in there and see what we have on beginning farmers. We also have some information on veteran farmers and some other programs as seasonal high tunnel as well. Our goal is to help the farmers, help the producers. You all as a farmers market people, we want to help you all as much as we possibly can. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. Again, ask. Myself, Maddie, and the RDP staff and RMA staff, some of us do not actually install these programs. So that has to actually go into the field office. The field office actually does all the work on these. So what we do is we kind of filter you towards the state agencies. I'm going to go ahead and let Maddie talk a little bit about FSA, and then we'll get to some question and answers.
Good afternoon, everybody. So for those of you that don't know, the Farm Service Agency is an agency under the USDA umbrella that offers financial assistance to Oklahoma producers. We do this in a couple of ways. That's either through loans or through commodity program support. One of those commodity programs is the Non-Insured Crop Assistance Program, most commonly known as NAP. This will provide financial assistance to the producers that grow crops that are typically not insurable through other insurance agencies. To be an eligible producer, those are going to be landowners, tenants, or sharecroppers that share a risk in producing the crop and is entitled to part of the ownership. And then eligible crops, you're going to find those as commercially produced commodities where crop insurance is not available. And what we classify as commercially produced commodities, if you're growing for a farmer's market, in most counties that is considered commercially produced. And to elaborate on that a little bit more, eligible crops, those are food, crops used for human food consumption, livestock consumption such as alfalfa, specialty crops, value loss crops, and then seed crops that are used for seed propagation. And then eligible causes of loss, that's going to be damaging weather, like what we just had a couple weeks ago, adverse natural occurrence, which is considered an earthquake or a flood, and conditions that are related to adverse weather, which is excessive heat, plant disease, and occasionally insect infestation. So with the service fees and premiums, if you're a veteran, if you're a beginning farmer or rancher, or if you're historically socially underserved, you can qualify for the waiver of the service fee and a 50% premium reduction. So that's a very good program for those that do grow crops for farmers market type situations. And then a couple other programs that you guys may be interested in is the Livestock Indemnity Program, otherwise known as LIP. This program is very popular right now after the biggest snowstorm that we just had a little bit ago. This is a program to help producers who have had livestock losses due to adverse weather. Eligible livestock, this would be, those will be livestock that died in excess of the normal mortality rate. That can be cattle, poultry, swine, alpacas, goats, reindeer, sheep. So if you had any losses like that, the best advice I can give you is for you to contact your county office, and they'll be able to let you know specifically how you can be eligible within your county according to the COC guidelines. Another emergency animal assistance that we have is the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program, otherwise known as ELAP. This is a program for typical livestock, honeybees, and farm-grown fish for commercial use. This will provide financial assistance to the eligible producers on losses of livestock, farm-raised fish, and honeybees that have died outside the normal mortality rate of disease and adverse weather events. Again, the best advice I can give you is to contact your county office, because each county has different regulations on what's eligible and not. So if you can contact them, then they'll be able to help you out the most efficiently. And then a couple things for financial assistance. We have some microloans available, and those are great for the beginning farmers and ranchers. We have operating and ownership loans available with a $50,000 maximum. The farm ownership loans, those can be repaid. The repayment term is a maximum of 40 years for both direct and guaranteed loans with the FSA. And and then the operating loans, those also have a loan maximum of $50,000 and a repayment term of 7 years. But those can vary depending on your operation. We have emergency loans as well. Those are loans that happen if there was a natural disaster in your area, and this has to be declared an emergency county in order to be eligible. But say you had a greenhouse and there was a lot of snow on it and it made the greenhouse collapse. You could be eligible for an emergency loan to help replace that greenhouse. Youth loans, those are great for youth that are trying to get into the ag industry or that are trying to further their FFA and 4-H projects. Those are for 10 to 20-year-old youth, and that has a $5,000 loan maximum. The stipulation of this is that the youth needs to have a supervisor, which can be an FFA advisor, 4-H advisor, or a tribal advisor in order to qualify for this loan. Farm ownership loans, this can be used to purchase land, expand a farm, or start up a new farm, and that has a loan maximum of $600,000. Again, that can be either a direct loan. That can either be a direct loan or that can be a guaranteed loan with the FSA. And then farm operating loans, those are for normal operating expenses to purchase cattle, purchase equipment, purchase fencing, and that is a loan maximum of $400,000. And that also, keep in mind, that has a repayment term of 7 years. I know I kind of went over a lot of information, so if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.
Ready, Gilbert? Okay. Again, my name is Kenny Quigley. I'm a loan specialist in the Stillwater State Office, and I don't have any PowerPoint slides. So I'm a little unorthodox here. So if you would, please write this down. Our website is rd.usda.gov. Okay. And when you go on that site, you can kind of browse around, and we have a ton of programs for housing, for water infrastructure, for business loans, etc. And it goes on, and it can be quite overwhelming because we have so many programs. But I'm going to talk about 2 of them right now, and write these titles down as well, and then you can refer to the site, and it can explain it a lot better than I can on the Zoom meeting. So the first program I want to talk about, and actually there's 2, and they're both applicable to ag producers. The first one is called the Rural Energy for America Program. It's called the REAP. That's the acronym for it. And what that is, it has to do with energy efficiency. So if you're a rural small business or an ag producer, you could actually qualify for one of these loans or grants. There's some caveats. You got to be in the area of 50,000 or less, which is not too difficult if you're an ag producer. And if you're an ag producer, you don't necessarily have to be out in the country. You could be in town as long as the location is 50,000 or less in population. And there's a various list of what the funds can be used for. I'll just kind of go through them real fast. We've had some that put in some micro biodiesel plants. Wind or solar generation is eligible. What we commonly get applications are, and again, this is mainly for the small businesses, is HVAC. For example, so if you have a facility that has an outdated HVAC system, we can actually assist in financing an upgraded unit that's more energy efficient. The same with insulation, in lighting. We've had a lot of customers that come in, they want to convert to LED lighting because it's a lot more energy efficient. Doors and windows. Solar is another big one. Anything that makes your facility more energy efficient. In the past we've done like out in the country, it's kind of hard to get water. A lot of places out in your farm you don't have any electricity. So I know we have financed a lot of solar panels for water uses. We've done some grain dryers. We've done a litany of different projects. On the funding, there's 2 sources of funds. We can make a loan for up to 75% of the project cost, or we can give you a grant for 25% of the eligible project cost. But at the end of the day, you got to come up with the difference. So if you use part loan and part grant, we can only do 75% of that project cost. Okay. But when you get to the grant, you can only do 25% of that project cost. And so most of the customers that come to us, you know, they want to utilize our grant to kind of help fill the difference. They may go to the bank or even to us to get the loan. And then we can help supplement that with a grant up to 25%. The other program that's pretty popular is called the Value Added Producer Grant. And it is a grant program. It's really the only grant program other than the REAP program where we can give an individual a grant. Most of our other grant programs are only for like municipalities or 501c3 nonprofit entities, but this one you can be an individual and get one. And basically what it is, if you're an ag producer and you want to add value to your commodity, that's the big test. Okay, and in these funds, what they're used for is really used for marketing to help expand your operation. It can be used in a business plan or a feasibility study. It's kind of limited on what you can use for the equipment. They can allow a little bit for equipment, but most of it is for working capital. It could help pay for some of your processing costs, your marketing, and it could pay for some of the inventory actually. Okay. So basically, we get an allocation from Congress once a year. And we really don't know exactly where we're going to get that because they kind of drop it on us pretty fast. But I believe the next allocation is going to be coming up here around April. So you got to put together, you know, a business plan that outlines everything of what you're going to do to add value to your commodity. And the best example I could give on some previous projects, on some dairy operators, for an example, we've had a lot that would want to go in there and they start manufacturing cheese, right? Because you're changing the actual commodity by adding value to it. So if you have a dairy and you want to start making cheese or some type of high-end milk, you could apply for this grant. We have a lot of cattle producers that raise cattle, and if they want to add value by putting in a kill plant, you know, that's an eligible use as well. We've had some in the past where they actually they had their own herd of cattle, and they would go ahead and process those calves, and they would actually have a retail market where they would sell meat. Some other projects would be like wineries. If you grow the grapes and then you want to make wine out of it, you know, you're adding value to that. I think in the past we've done some with honeybees and what else? I think we've done some with in the past. I can't not remember the details of that particular project, but they were more, their value added component was more of like the organic egg. Okay, that was kind of what they were pushing towards. So anyway, if you go to our website, you can find these two programs, and they can explain it a lot better than I can over Zoom. And if you have any questions, you have all of our contact information there, and just the main thing is to reach out. Personally, I do not do these two programs. We have two different loan specialists that do. So if you call me and you have a project you want to run by, I will get you directed to the right person. We handle these two programs out of our state office, so you won't have to. We don't outsource them out to the field, not on these two. So that was the two programs in a nutshell.
Thank you all so much for all that great information. And those slides are on Whova. as well as that contact information. You can find that anytime there. I know everybody, there's a bunch of people have been having great conversations with Gilbert all day long. We appreciate your support and thanks for that information. We are going to get started with the highlight of the day, our keynote speaker. Just a quick note, even though I mentioned this morning that this was one of the hardest conferences we've ever planned, and we've talked more about it than we have probably all of the conferences all put together, it all kind of came together at the very end. So a sincere thank you for our keynote speaker for being flexible and taking our ideas and sharing his own vision with us. John Bob Simple, if you would come up to the stage, I am going to let him tell his story. He's been working in the local food space in several different places. I believe earlier he called himself an outsider. I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but he is not a technical food producer, but he's really familiar with a lot of other places in this local food space. And so I hope that you can learn some things and gain some inspiration as he tells us how we can be a better part of our community.
Thank you. Are we going? Yeah. Thank you so much, Mary Ruth and Meredith. Thank you, everybody that is on the app in Hoover and you're watching on Zoom, because I don't know about y'all, but I am so over virtual meetings. I don't know what to do with myself. I think that our current struggle of this pandemic is real, and I may not ever use Zoom ever again. It's not true. I don't want to tell you that. It has been one of those opportunities to just lean in. And so this last session, I'm going to ask you to lean in as much as possible, especially as I lean in with each of you. One of the things that a wise man ever said to me, he said, John, when you don't know what you don't know, just acknowledge that you don't know what you don't know. In preparation to come and to share with you today, I wanted an opportunity to connect with you and acknowledge some things that I think are absolutely critical. As I sat through this last breakout session with Kevin and Carrie, and I was listening, I was just trying to open my ears. And I was trying to understand, what is this relationship between food and the land relative to the relationship between food and the store? I oftentimes know so much about the relationship between food and the store, but being able to recognize, what does it take to bring food to life? Each of you do this in unique and amazing ways, and so I want to just start off from a place of telling you thank you. In my work at Blue Zones Project, Pottawatomie County, the food space is something that has mattered to me a whole lot. We at the Blue Zones Project really believe in helping people live longer, healthier, better lives. It is absolutely essential and critical that we understand the role that food plays in that. And so from that place of gratitude, I want to invite you into this conversation with me. I say a conversation because each and every one of you are the experts or the almost experts in your operation, in your farmer's market, in your experience. I come as a humble addition to this conversation and a contribution to it. As I get started, I want to recognize our primary sponsor at the Blue Zones Project, the Avitas Foundation. They're in Pottawatomie County. They're here for good. They work towards eliminating the negative health outcomes of Pot County, and they see that in its full cycle and its full beauty. And so, shout out to the Avitas Foundation, which has been with us since day one. As I continue to share with you, I want to also give a shout out to all of my folks from Pot County. If you're watching there and you're from Pottawatomie County, if you're a grower, a producer, I just want to say hello. I want to get to meet you. So there you go, speaking through the camera. How's it going? Hit me up. I'd love to connect. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to our sister community for the Blue Zones Project, the Blue Zones Project in Durant. Their Food Policy Council, one of their members is attending today. And so, Tammy, hello. I just wanted to also say hi. I am not going to say hi to my mom because I don't think she's watching. When I was growing up, I had an absolute love of peanut butter. Not just any type of peanut butter, a very particular kind of peanut butter. How about y'all, for those of you attending today, who had a favorite type of peanut butter when you were a kid? Raise it out, shout it out at me, yell at me. Peter Pan, okay, anybody else? Jeff, okay, how about crunchy? If you're on the chat, talk to me. You like crunchy peanut butter? Just yell at me, crunchy. If you think those folks are crazy, you want smooth peanut butter. If you want that weird natural peanut butter where you get the oil at the top and you got to work like it's cement, just turn it off. You see, when I was a kid, my favorite type of peanut butter came out of only one can. I don't need fancy labels, baby. I want a gray can of peanut butter. That gray can of peanut butter actually looked a lot like the photo that you're looking at right now. That gray can of peanut butter became alive to me as I was investing my career in the food insecurity space with the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. As I was talking to some folks about the USDA commodity program, I realized that the peanut butter didn't come out of that can anymore. And somebody explained to me as we were moving some pallets, I like to dress a little fancy, I'll throw some nice shoes on. Some of you brought your boots today, I appreciate that. My team would often laugh at me and they'd see me with a pallet. And I'm moving this pallet of peanut butter and someone says, John, you know, this is what USDA peanut butter, it used to look out of a gray can, but now it's out of this pretty plastic one. And all of a sudden I said, well, the only way to qualify for that is that you're food insecure. I called up my folks and I actually had a conversation. I said, where'd that gray peanut butter can come from? They let me know that, yes, we had it all the time. And as I sat and I conversed with my mom and dad, who were people of faith, and they worked really hard to take care of us. We had 5 kids in our family. I was a little confused. I said, Dad, you were on the head of the United Way, right? He said, yes, son, we were. I said, Dad, you led the food pantry locally. He said, yes, son, we did. I said, Dad, I don't understand. He said, son, there's not people who are on one side of the table as the giver and the other side of the table as the receiver. We all have the opportunity to sit on both sides of that table. This helped me to recognize the value and the importance of what we were doing at the Regional Food Bank. Understanding that food was a cycle and a system that required everyone to play their part. I would get to learn a whole lot more about that system during my time there. One day I was with some friends who were producers in Garfield County in Enid. If you're in Garfield County, holler at me. Anybody Garfield County? Online, you better speak. I wish I could hear y'all. Y'all, this is the strangest thing to talk to people you cannot see. It's like a ghost. It's weird. It's true. One day they invited me over for dinner, and their kids, FFA students, they introduced me to their project. And they said, John, let's take you out to the barn. I said, okay, that sounds great. Y'all, I'm a Southeast Louisiana boy, but my mother's from New Orleans. My dad is from Guyana. He grew up in the UK. I don't know anything about farming and ranching, and in this moment, I'm about to learn. They take me back to the barn. They introduce me to their project. Their project had a treadmill. It's like, what in the world? Their project had to be cared for in a particular way, had to make sure that their hooves were taken care of. This project was sheep. Before we walked out to the barn, they said, John, you might want to change clothes. I said, I didn't bring a change of clothes. They said, well, we got one for you. They said, John, you might want to put on this coat. I said, don't worry about it. I'm fine. They said, don't touch these sheep unless you have different clothes on. I said, hey, y'all, I don't want to make a fuss. It's all good. And they were like, oh, okay, it's all good. Y'all, I have never stunk so bad in my life. As I walked and I'm interacting with the sheep, I'm treating it like a dog, or I'm petting it. And I'm like, this is so great. I'm smiling and they're just laughing at me. You see, the opportunity I have today is to be able to do something that's my passion and what I believe in doing, and that is being a bridge builder. Being a bridge builder to those that take for granted how hard you work every day in order to make what you do possible. I want to let you know that I appreciate the fact that whether it be pandemics last year where people had the opportunity to pour milk down the drain, watching it go to waste, or to work with the USDA to get food to people who need it. I want to tell you thank you, and I see you recognizing that as I talk to my friend Joe Parker at Highland Ranch out in Oologah, breaking ice. Y'all, what you do is tough. As I listen to what it takes to just run a hoop house. And guess what? We got it covered, but as long as the snow is not too heavy. There's so many challenges that you've faced. Your resilience is real. To the Oklahoma ag community, as an outsider, somebody who didn't come up this way, I see you and I want to tell you thank you. You see, the work that I do with the Blue Zones Project is connected to this conversation. It's connected to the fifth generation farmers who know their purpose, who know why they're here, know why they engage. I called my friend Lori Flansburgh down in Weatherford. I said, Lori, I don't know what I don't know. Can you help me understand? She said, my dad, who's been making peanuts and wheat not making a whole lot of money in a small area there in Custer County, he doesn't take a lot of vacations. He doesn't get to just leave for 2 weeks and call it good. I see you and I appreciate you. I appreciate the fact that when we do this work to help people live lives, longer, better lives, there's a little bit for me to communicate about why I'm here talking to you. So let me tell you a little bit about the Blue Zones Project. How many of you are familiar or have heard of the Blue Zones Project? Wave at me. Anybody? So our primary mission, our objective, is to help communities to help people live lives longer and better. To be able to acknowledge those challenges with health outcomes and say, what can we leverage to get there? Our work is based upon the lifelong study of Dan Buettner. Took 20 years and said, where in the world do people live the longest? How do people live there? And what are they like? And what are they doing right that the rest of us could learn some things? Now, this is not my primary reason that I'm here to talk to you, but I want to tell you a little bit about what he learned from Okinawa, Japan, what he learned from Nicoya, Costa Rica, what he learned from Loma Linda, California, and what he learned from Sardinia, Italy, and what he learned from Greece. See, what he learned was that there's certain practices that all 5 of those homes to centenarians, people who live the longest, much past 90, much past the average age here in the average U.S. community, they do some very important things that the rest of us could adopt. The first is really important, and that is to move naturally. They're not in the gym pumping iron. They're not like me, who showed up at the YMCA this morning to get my sweat on. I was hoping I could sweat out the nerves and sweat out the talking too much. Moving naturally is not about moving weights. It's really about how can we move our bodies a whole lot. Can we go for walks every day to add towards our health? Could we garden? Could we take care of our kids, getting down, up and down, picking them up? Moving naturally, just moving our bodies and recognizing its value. Secondly, and very, very importantly, is this concept of belonging. Those communities that live the longest, they belong many times to a faith community that meets up to 4 times in a month. This helps people live longer. Why? They're people who say, I believe in you. As we worship God and as we live with each other, they have a bond. There's a reason for showing up every day. Secondly, they believe in family first. They're active in their families regardless of their age. their seniors being cared for and taken care of. When we look at the power of these Power 9 as we talk about them, it's still absolutely grounded in something that many of you know a lot about because I watched it today. Being in the right tribe, being around like-minded people who want to do what we do together, to be able to point our efforts in the same direction. And in many of your cases, pointing your efforts in the same direction over time and being faithful to that work. When we look at the Power 9, we also see this fun element of wine at 5. Now, this is not just about drinking because those 5 communities don't share that, but what they do share is ending the day over a conversation. Being able to be with people who care about you, who want to know what your challenges are, and to invest in you. The next is the plant slant, recognizing that our diets require both meat and a whole lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. Recognizing we all need a whole lot more fresh fruits and vegetables to help battle chronic disease. Next is the 80% rule. Hey, when you're 80% full, just stop eating. Now, that's a little easier said than done, especially if I'm engaged in eating some of my favorite stuff. But the reality is that moderation goes a long way over time. The next in the Power 9 looks different for everybody, and that's downshifting. What does it look like to stop and to pause, to listen, to reflect? That might look like prayer. That might look like, for some, meditation. And lastly, and probably one of the most important, or the most important for me, is purpose. Purpose. You know, earlier we talked about your resilience and the challenges that each of you have done. I get the opportunity to connect with you here, recognizing that our purpose is the reason that we show up, using the talents, skills, and abilities, the interests, the values that we have to leave something that's greater than just ourselves. So if you're sitting there and you're taking notes, I want you to just take 30 seconds. I want you to think about how you produce locally, how you make local ag a reality. How is your purpose connected to that? This is not for anybody else, but just to connect it back to your why. The purpose, the meaning in life that you find in being a part of this tribe. I'll give you about 10 seconds to consider that. When we think about these Power 9, our aim in Potawatomi County is to be able to implement these things to help move the needle on the negative health outcomes that are debilitating. When we think of that, we know that it cannot just be one person at a time. Anybody in the room ever tried to go on a diet? Raise your hand. Anybody? Just raise your hand. Some of y'all might not want to. I have tried to go on a diet. I will raise my hand for you. There you go. I used to be about 65, 75 pounds bigger than I am right now. I was at about 250 pounds, and when it comes down to the comorbidities that are wrecking the lives of people through this pandemic every single day, that was going to be my story. When it comes down to diabetes and heart disease, many things that food, if we think of it as medicine that can impact, I was headed down that way. But what we know is it's not behavior change alone that actually moves that needle. It's actually an entire environment. That entire environment that can either make or break those efforts for change. We believe that environments that really move towards change acknowledge it in 3 areas that we work in. We work with people and individuals, recognizing that relationships take us really far. Recognizing that if we can set them up for the right relationships, doing the right activities, they're more likely to continue. We look at the environment from a policy standpoint. Built environments that are built to help people move better, to grow more food, to make sure that we are encouraging folks like each of you, sure helps us go that much further. And finally, in the places that we work, that we play, and that we worship. this conversation around purpose does have more to do with you than just talking about blue zones. I want to talk to you about what I've learned in preparation to share with you today. I've learned 3 primary things. That local food brings hope, that local food brings choice, and that local food brings health. Local food brings hope, local food brings choice, and local food brings health. When I talk about hope, that could be defined in a lot of different ways. One of those critical ways is hope to generations. Building in the next generation resiliency, dedication, healthy relationships with food, healthy relationships with the land. When I watch the Oklahoma Youth Expo, watch kids take thousands of hours invested into cattle and different livestock, I'm watching somebody who grew some character along the way. When I think about the fact that they give that and donate it to the Beef for Backpack program or the Pork for Packs program, it ends up helping me realize what Jack Miller, my friend who taught me all about local food the first time, these kids are trying to serve their neighbors. Local food brings hope in this way. When I talk to my friend Joe out in Ulaga, who leads Highland Ranch, and he tells me about all the work that he does outside of just being a producer. He is 3rd or 4th generation in working this exact same land. Y'all, he's on, they've worked on the school board. They're creating jobs in the volunteer fire department, the Farm Bureau board, soil conservation, leading at church. He's a father, he's a grandfather, and then he's got to go break ice. I have bad days, y'all, but my plate is not that full. Not nearly if it's harvest or if it's not harvest, he's showing up to care for his community. He says that the reason he does it is because he wants to build hope in the future generations and the legacy that leads behind. That hope might look like economically. When I talk to my new friend, Chad, from Ward Family Farms in Pawnee. See, I went and visited him at the Oklahoma City Farmers Market. And I asked him, I said, Chad, why do you do what you do? He said, John, it's absolutely critical that I have a responsibility of bringing my food to Oklahoma City and bringing back opportunity to Pawnee. This is an OBU grad who decided to go back home and invest in home. He says his responsibility is to provide access to quality food, to be able to help his rural community have jobs, because if they don't care for that place, nobody else is going to. He said, John, it would be easier, but here I can make greater impact. That hope might look like our friends in agritourism. If you're in agritourism, give me a shout, wave at me. Agritourism, okay, awesome. This is my wife and I. We were out in Harrow. We went to pick some peaches. I got so many husband points, y'all, this day. You don't even know. Agritourism, thank you. Sometimes it can be challenging to come up with new, fun, innovative ideas to do something that both of us can enjoy. We had so much fun, y'all. I irresponsibly bought more peaches that could ever give away or eat. We ran out of stuff to put peaches in. It is tricky. That box looks so very, very light, and then it is not by the time you get to the end of it. I had a lot of peaches that day. I also learned that y'all put up with a lot of challenges. This is gross, but these beetles were just enjoying these peaches. And I'm telling y'all, I'm being all suave. My wife's like, baby, I can't reach that peach. And I'm like, I went to go grab it, and I pull it down, and y'all, I got weirded out like just gross, okay? It's gross. It also brings hope. Local food brings hope because of what you do charitably. This is the community market of Pottawatomie County, where last month they served 2,400 families. They lost a week from the storm. 2,400 families, 365 of which showed up the day after they started business again. In one day, broke a record. See, our families are hurting, they're struggling, and when it comes down to food insecurity, the 1 in 6 Oklahomans that this is their experience, local food provides an extra boost whenever those outside of our state can't help. Local food builds relationships between those that are the helpers and those that are the suppliers. Local food allows sustainability to be a reality. That's not just happening in Pot County, it's also happening at Restore OKC here in Oklahoma City, where they're trying to eliminate what is, and maybe even was, because they're getting close, a food desert. It's amazing when I look at the work that local food is doing in our state. It's on both sides of our state in Tulsa. Food on the move. Everybody, I got to tell you, we could give it up for everyone. So will you give it up for Food on the Move and every single one of you that have been engaging and trying to eliminate food insecurity during this last year? Will you give them a round of applause, please? There is a network of emergency food assistance operators, too many to name, 1,700 affiliated with Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma and the Community Food Bank of Eastern Oklahoma. The work that is being done on a day in and a day out basis is unbelievable. Though that's not the story that I tell you today, I want to tell you I'm never going to forget it, and neither should you. In times that get hard, they don't forget. Their mission continues, and it's continuing across our state. Local food brings choice. The other day, I was visiting with Josh from Rooted Farms. Josh from Rooted Farms decided he was going to educate me. I didn't know what microgreens were. I had no idea. I said, "Why are you selling small lettuce in a bag?" You know, no one told me that you go to farmer's market to get an education. And Josh literally says, "John, this is what a microgreen is. It's real good for you. It tastes real good. And did I mention it was real good for you?" I said, you repeated yourself. And he said, "Yes, I repeated myself." Maybe it didn't go down like that. That's what I heard. You know, it's amazing when you look at what you farmers market managers, any farmers market managers in the house, wave at me. Everybody give it up for our farmers market managers. You know, in Pot County, we are a lot further away than we want to be in having a strong farmers market. If any of you have some great ideas or you have interest in helping us get that back off the ground, we have a lot of interest at the Blue Zones Project. Those farmers market managers, what you're doing is you're allowing folks like me to learn some things from growers I otherwise would not have met. When I met the folks at Wellness Connection that are literally buying from growers that cannot make it to market just so they get an opportunity to do their purpose, I thought it was pretty amazing. But more importantly, it gave me a choice to be able to visit with these different folks that I might not have otherwise been able to. It also gives me a choice for those of you that might have taken a vegan lifestyle. You know, I was amazed. I go up to Chad, right? I'll buy some chicken wings. Probably the freshest chicken wings I have ever eaten in my whole life. I'm just telling y'all. And in my time, I've eaten some chicken wings. When it comes down to the plant slant, we know that there are ways for us to ingest meat, but also to have some really good non-meat options, some plant-based options. Well, this local farmer's market allowed me to go see Chad and then roll into Plant Dad, who hooked me up with some vegan chicken wings. And yes, I did buy both, and yes, I will enjoy both soaked in very, very wonderful healthy buffalo sauce. Y'all, there's not a lot of places that provides that type of variety, that type of option. Local food provides us with choice. Lastly, local food provides us with choice and through access. The Double Up Food Bucks program, supported by the amazing folks, Department of Ag, ONI, that provides choice to people who are oftentimes in food deserts. That access is critical and it's important. That access takes a lot of work. But that choice is important. Why? Because to be struggling to put food on your table when you're working your butt day in and day out off doesn't mean that you don't get the opportunity to eat quality, nutritious food that can bring medicine into your body. When I think about medicine, I think about my final point. Local food brings health. This is what's at stake when we think about why it's so important. That choice and that hope can take in the shape of CSAs in Minneapolis that are working with the Hmong Farmers Association to walk out the Veggie RX program, where they're writing prescriptions for fresh fruits and vegetables so that those that have debilitating diseases can have a way out beyond just medicine. A Veggie RX program that looks different all across the country, and in Pot County, it has its own flavor, its own beauty. We're able to work with SSM Health, the Citizen Potawatomi Nation-owned Fire Lake Discount Foods, the Avitas Foundation, and for us at the Blue Zones Project to make sure that those prescribed foods as medicine get to the tables of people who need them, introducing them to foods that they might otherwise have not had access to. See, this type of an opportunity is providing those vouchers so they continue to have access while they're getting the education that they need to help fight disease within their bodies. Let me give you just some fast facts of why I think you could have a place at that table regardless of where you are. Those patients report after going through this program that 89% said their overall produce consumption increased significantly. That 94% reported saying that it made a difference in their health. 44% reported that it decreased their food insecurity. 78% reported that they tried new fruits and vegetables. You know, earlier when I've kind of gone into some of your sessions, y'all were using words of vegetables and stuff I've never heard of before. I hear that's a good thing to eat those things. Programs like these can provide some hope and some health. When I think about the TSET grantee, Gateway to Prevention, and their relationship with people who are coming out of drug and alcohol addiction, substance abuse folks, programs like these help them focus on things that don't just focus on what to stop doing, but also what to start doing. I mentioned Gateway because I want to acknowledge that at Blue Zones, we know that we need each and every one of the different folks that have a place at the table. We have a place at the table for growers and producers who want to not just invest in planting and growing and selling your product, but also invest in the unique places that each of you hold. We know at Blue Zones that we need these types of everyone across the board, types of thinking in order to eliminate the negative health outcomes that debilitate our whole state and allow people to not feel like they have hope. You know, I want to land on a funny story. As I took on this role, I started to learn about our efforts to pass a urban chicken type of resolution in our city commission to allow folks to be able to keep chickens, to be able to make eggs. And it was amazing to watch our city commission pass this law, this ordinance, without pushback. And I thought about the fact that some people are going to get access to fresh farm eggs right in their community. It made me think about when I got married. When my wife and I got together, we're dating and I'm meeting her family. Her dad has a 140-acre place out in Crescent. I didn't have much direct exposure in my family. That's not God's gift for us. My faith calls me to build bridges. His faith calls him to be a contractor. And a producer in his own right. Every time we'd get together, we loved brunch. She'd bring these farm fresh eggs. And I was so excited, I asked him, I said, so are these eggs included in her dowry? Is that still, can we keep that going? Y'all, the eggs dried up within like 6 months. He changed his mind, coyotes, I don't know. And the guard donkey took care of, there was a guard donkey, I just want to throw that out there. That was new. Y'all, I share that with you to say that this is not just about the policies that we need to pass in order to make our food system more sustainable. It's not just about the places that we want to engage to help them realize that not only is food important and our health is important, it's not even just the individuals we want to push toward those healthier outcomes in their own lives. Food is personal. It gets down to our purpose. It gets down to our family memories and what we believe and what we know about ourselves. Here's what I know and what I want to leave you with. That work is made better because of you. Regardless of your scale, you play a role in our food system. Local food gives hope. Local food provides choice. And I believe, and I've got reasonable evidence to demonstrate, that local food brings health. Thank you very much. I understand that there's an opportunity to ask any questions if anyone does have them. My friend Emily may have some. If I missed a wave, I'm sorry. Okay, go team. Does anyone have any questions about our work at Blue Zones or anything that I've shared with you today? I love asking that question when I'm the last thing between you and 5 o'clock traffic. To not belabor a point, I'll stick around for a bit. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, John. I encourage you to stick around if you can and chat with John a little bit. Is Meredith bringing me door prize winners? All right. Before we get to our exciting door prizes, just one last reminder that the app is still going strong. People are still talking on there. For those of you at home that still have questions, some of us might not be as fast to respond after today, so please use the contact information in there if you're looking for services that either ONI Project or ODAF can provide, or anybody here today. So we might not be managing HUVA as well as we were today, but please use our contact information. We'd love to talk to you. All right, Meredith, what do we got?
We have a 7-inch rogue field hole.
A 7-inch field hoe. These are all donated by Oklahoma Farm Bureau, and that is the membership association, not necessarily the insurance company. Our friend Justin Whitmore brought us these yesterday, and the winner of this is?
So the virtual attendee that is Joseph Jacobs.
Joseph Jacobs.
And so Joseph, please message us with, or like privately, your contact information, or I guess we can follow it up on, never mind, Hoover has that. So I'll just take her, and we'll get this to you virtually. So, well, physically, but you know what I mean. The next person is Tony Sutton.
Tony Sutton. Is Tony Sutton here? You can do that.
And then the Hoover winner is Carol Jones.
All right, and Carol, I think, was virtual as well, right?
I think so, yeah.
All right, we will get those to you. Thanks again for sticking around, everyone. I sincerely hope we are crammed into a giant hotel ballroom next year with nowhere to sit, standing room only, back to normal. We'll see you next year.